18 is not an adult. I was talking to my mom today, as I often am, and we were having a very interesting conversation, the two of us, about how basically when I was 18, I was retarded. Like, I'm 22 now, but she's basically talking about how every year I grew significantly, like mentally, than I did the year before. And she was basically telling me how she thinks it's so wrong how, in America, basically a lot of kids are kind of sent out onto their own when they're 18 years old. She told me, when you were 18, I didn't feel like you were anywhere near ready to be on your own. You just weren't mature enough, and how it's just so wrong how, a lot of these 18-year-old kids, because they're pretty much kids, are sent out on their own to try to, make a life for themselves or whatever. And basically, she was telling me how in the Middle East, it's very common for kids to live with their parents all the way up until their late 20s, right around the time till the time they want to get married, and how spending that time with your family is so critical, and how, you know, how a child's brain isn't even completely developed until he or she is about 25 years old. They say the frontal lobe of the brain isn't even fully developed until age 25. Yet kids are expected to be, they're technically adults when they're 18. They can go to jail when they're 18. They can, go into the army or the military when they're 18 and buy cigarettes when they're 18. They can do so many things when they're 18, but they're not really fully developed yet. And she was just basically, and we were in agreement on this, how it's really wrong how kids are kind of just forced to grow up right at 18. You know, Even me, like, I'm 22 now, but I'm incredibly different than I was when I was 21. I'm incredibly different than I was when I was 19 or 20. I believe that. I really don't think a person is fully matured, and I really don't think a man is even a man, honestly, until maybe 30, 35. It's funny. I watched my favorite show, The Sopranos, right? And in The Sopranos, the guys who are in their 60 are calling the guys who are in their 40 kid. Like, the dude who's like 65 will go up to a dude who's 45 and be like, "Hey, kid, come here." But they view guys in their 40s as kids. It's just so wrong how 18 years old, you're still a baby. There's still so much you don't know. You can be preyed upon by, predators, in a sense, that are way older than you. And they just expect you to just know what to do when you're 18. It's just so wrong. I always thought, you know, I think it's wrong how the military, recruits boys. Like, I remember when I was 18, the second I turned 18, I had military recruiters trying to recruit me to go join the army and the air force and the military or whatever. And here's the problem. This is why the army loves recruiting teenagers, because you're strong enough to fight, right? But you're not smart enough to think for yourself, right? See, when I was 18, I thought I was invincible. I thought I couldn't be killed. I thought I could fight someone and destroy them and no one can touch me. When you're young and dumb, you think you're bulletproof. It took me getting jumped and almost dying to understand that I can be killed, right? So the army, the military, they love recruiting young, dumb kids who are smart enough to fight, but not smart enough to think for themselves, because that makes the perfect pawn. You are the perfect vessel. You are the perfect, soldier to go fight. You're smart enough to do their bidding, but you're not smart enough to think for yourself, and you think you're bulletproof on top of that. It's funny how they trust you to be uh, um, they trust you when you're 18 to be a human killing machine to go overseas and fight, but they don't trust you to buy alcohol yet, which would make you drunk and possibly a threat to the society you live in. They know that you're retarded, and they know that if they get you drunk at 18, you'll end up doing damage to your own country. But it's okay to send you overseas at 18 with a AK-47 to go kill other people. That's how low your country views you. They don't trust you enough to drink, but they trust you enough to be a sacrificial pawn to go kill other people and fulfill their agenda, right? Imagine if the legal age to join the military was like 25 or 30. How many people do you really think would reconsider, right? Because they're like, "Oh wait, I've lived for a while. I can tell I can be killed. I can tell I can be destroyed." You have more life experiences by that point, so you're less likely to maybe jump into something so willingly. You'd really think about it first, right? And look, like I said, there's nothing wrong. I think it's a very honorable thing to go into the military, but I think 18-year-old kids going into the military is kind of crazy. I talked about in other videos how I had a buddy of mine. he went into the Marines when he was 18 years old, right? And he was scared and lonely when he went into the Marines. So he ended up marrying some fat chick who works at Walmart and having a daughter with her, so that while he was in the Marines, he did this right before he got deployed or whatever. So that way when he's in the Marines, he has a woman back home, so he feels like he has someone because he was scared to do this alone. You know, maybe a guy who's in his 30s who goes into the military wouldn't feel so lonely when he goes in. He wouldn't feel the need to knock up some fat chick, you know, so that he knows he has someone back home. So thing is, he gets out of the military, right? His wife leaves him, and he has a daughter. He's paying child support. He's like 22 now. Like me and him are the same age, right? I think he did like a 4-year term or something. He has a daughter now. He's paying child support. He's like 22, 23. His wife left him, and he's screwed. Like he started his life off screwed because he made a scared, immature decision because he was going into the Marines and he was lonely, and he thought, you know, this is what I have to do. This is how I'm gonna feel like I have somebody. Because he was afraid to do it alone, right? So it just shows how when you make these big decisions at such a young age, you're so liable to do some crazy, retarded stuff like he did, you know? You know, a lot of these men are just not meant to be making so many big decisions at 18. I remember when I was 18, I was able to get loans and credit cards, and I didn't even know what credit was. I didn't know how to use credit, but these banks, these creditors, were preying on me because they know I'm legal enough to get debt, right? But I'm too stupid to know how it really works. So they prey upon young, impressionable 18-year-old kids and try to get them to sign up for so many things that are going to destroy them in the long run, right? Like these crazy college loans, you know. How is an 18-year-old kid allowed to take out a $100,000 college loan when they don't even have a minimum wage job? How is that acceptable? You know, it's sick how in this society they really just prey on these young kids. You know, and they get you hooked when you're young, right? They get you in debt when you're 18, 19, 20, so that you're working off your 20s and 30s and 40s paying it back. So they enslave you, you know, the second you're technically an adult, you know. It blows my mind that an 18-year-old boy can go to the same prison as a 45-year-old man. You know, an 18-year-old kid could go to prison for, you know, I don't know, selling pot, and he's in the same cell as a 45-year-old man that killed, you know, 10 people or something like that. How do these two people, how does that work? How could you allow that to happen? It just blows my mind, man. It blows my mind how at 18 you're kind of just thrown out to the wolves, and it's like, you know, you're supposed to just know what to do. You know, I was nowhere near as sharp when I was 18 as I am now. You know, I was nowhere near as ready to take on the world and handle the world, and yet I'm expected to do so, you know. I didn't know how to have a proper diet when I was 18. I didn't know that single moms are out to get me when I'm 18. I didn't know that smoking weed and doing drugs is going to, you know, kind of slow me down a little bit. I didn't understand any of that. I was like, oh, you know, I'll just wing it and see what happens. And, you know, I paid the price a little bit for certain decisions. Luckily, you know, I never got a girl pregnant or went to jail or anything like that, you know, thank God. But I very easily could have. There were so many close calls where I almost died, almost went to jail, almost got a girl pregnant, and, you know, survived by the skin of my teeth. So imagine all the other 18-year-olds who didn't, you know, like my buddy who goes to the Marines. He gets a girl pregnant. She leaves him. Now he's out of the Marines. He has no money. He's got child support. Like, what the hell, man? You know, imagine if he had waited till 25 or 30. Maybe he would have done it a little differently. So I don't know, guys. That's just the moral of the story. I don't think 18 is an adult. You know, I don't think, and this is, you know, a message to the MGTOW guys. This is how I relate this to MGTOW. You know, wait till you're a little older before you start making some crazy life decisions like, I don't know, taking out loans and getting women pregnant and even maybe going into the military. You know, I know you guys might want to do it, and, you know, I'm not saying it's not a good idea, but maybe if you're 18 and you're watching this, maybe wait till 22, 23, see how you still feel about it, and then decide what you want to do, you know. See, like my buddy, he was 18. He told me he wants to go to the Marines because he wants to be a hero. He wants, when he comes back, everybody to has all the kills, and he ended up coming back from the Marines with a kid, and then no one cares that he was in the Marines. He got no respect, like no one cared. So he did this to get love and approval from his parents, who never gave him love and approval, and he didn't even get that love and approval when he came back. So, you know, maybe if you're going into things for the wrong reasons because you're young and naive, maybe you should wait a few years and see how you feel, because you might not get the rewards that you think you're going to get, you know, by doing these noble things that they tell you are so brave and noble when you're a young, impressionable kid, you know. Anyways, guys, that's just the moral of the story. 18 is not an adult.